What's up, everybody? It is TMQB for Week 12, Season 2011. I'm going to get right to the games. Tried doing some playoff scenarios, and don't mean to sound like a whining bitch, but it was fucking tough. And it's actually going to come down to next week. I'm almost going to have to wait till the games are finished to give you who made the playoffs and whatnot. But I'll give you some possible scenarios. But right now we've got a tie atop the Pacific Division, 7-5 the record, Intimidators and Why Not Us. A tie atop the Northeast Division, Silent Death and the Cruisers at 7-5. And Storm Brigade is your Atlantic Division champion, so congrats. Carrying on that Storm Brigade tradition of winning the division. 8-4. And a couple of things really quick that I did do. Let's see. If he loses, he still gets the division, still makes the playoffs. And for him, it's just worrying about the seeding. If he wins, he'll get the number one seed at 9-4 because no one else will have the 9 wins. If he loses and either the Intimidators or Why Not Us win, number one seed would still go to Storm Brigade based on head-to-head. If Silent Death wins, and or if Cruisers wins, and Storm loses, the number one seed would go to either Silent or Cruisers. Again, if both win, it would go to Silent. If both lose, it would go to Silent based on their division calculations. If Silent wins and Cruisers loses, it goes to Silent based on division record and head-to-head. First, let me get back to the games. A couple of really good games this week that determined who was in the playoffs and who was out of the playoffs. Knocked a few people out. So I'm going to go game of the week, Cleveland Steamers and Panzers. Cleveland Steamers is your winner, 45-44. The victory knocked Panzers completely out of the playoff race and keeps Cleveland Steamers in the race. Cleveland Steamers currently with a 6-6 record. If they win this week, they'll be 7-6, and there's a scenario where they can make the playoffs. This game, big game from Tom Brady with 26 points. Really the only guy worth home writing, but everyone else chipped in with a few points here and there. Calvin Johnson with 7 for Panzers. He had a couple of guys with some big days. Cam Newton with 12, Brandon Marshall 10, and Baronis 11, but it wasn't enough. Cleveland Steamers, your victor, 45-44, keeping their playoff hopes alive. A division matchup, which is going to go a long way to helping to settle the Pacific Division. Intimidators 56-39 over Why Not Us. Big game from Eli Manning with 20 points. Wes Welker with 16. For Why Not Us, 14 from Stafford. A bunch of 8s from Lloyd, Davis, and Bailey. But it wasn't enough. And interesting battle there for the Pacific. It'll come down to next week. Here we go. I guess I'll get into it now. Intimidators win the division with a victory over Hoagie, no matter what anyone else does. So, Intimidators win, they win the division. If Why Not Us wins as well, both will be 8-5. Head-to-head, the split comes down to division record. Daters would be 5-1, and Why Not Us would be 4-2. Division goes to Daters. Why Not Us can win the division if they win and Daters lose. TNT cannot win the division, but there are scenarios where they will make the playoffs and Why Not Us will not make the playoffs. If TNT beats Why Not Us and the Daters lose to Hoagie, all three have a 7-6 record. Division goes to the Daters based on this three-way tie of 7-6 record. Head-to-head, Daters are 2-0 versus TNT, 1-1 versus Why Not Us. TNT is 2-0 versus Why Not Us. Dater gets the division based on the head-to-head and the division record, having the best in both of those scenarios. And where did I write it down? So then it would be between a playoff spot between Why Not Us and TNT, which I figured out in a few other case scenarios because there would be other teams involved based on who would win. For example, if Cleveland Steamers wins, they'd have a 7-6 record along with Why Not Us and TNT. And if we're battling for that last wild card spot, it would be Cleveland, TNT, and Wine at Us, all with 7-6 record. We follow NFL rules for the playoffs, so we break a tie out of the division first. The playoff spot would go to TNT, based on head-to-head. So there you can see it's still pretty convoluted, and I'll get into it again in a little bit, as much as I can, because it was tough. It's one of the tougher years that I've mentioned all year. It's been one of the tougher years. All right, back to the games. Hoagie Heroes playing Spoiler with a 54-41 victory over TNT. 10 points from Curtis Painter, 18 from Victor Cruz, 9 from Mark Ingram. Those two really, and Brandon Jacobs with 7 on Monday night, really helped him push past TNT for the victory. New quarterback Ben Roethlisberger got him 9. The trade didn't really help TNT, as his normal quarterback Hasselbeck got the same amount of points of 9. As a matter of fact, the guy he traded, Curtis Painter, was the big point winner with 10, and Hoagie got those. 14 for D'Angelo Williams, 10 from LaShawn McCoy. Poor Pickens keeping their playoff hopes alive. They now sit at 6-6, and there's scenarios where they make the playoffs. But for this game, 45-38 over Steel Curtain from champion to also ran. And I have to admit, I'm a bit surprised based on the roster that Steel was sporting right out of the draft, and with Aaron Rodgers at the helm. He pretty much carried them all year, but I'm kind of shocked that Steele has been knocked out of the playoffs. But 45 for poor Pickens, 23 from Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan outplaying Aaron Rodgers. 8 from Plaxico Burress, 7 from Nick Novak. For Steel Curtain, 18 from Rodgers, down from his 25-point-something average that he gets in our league every week. 6 from LeGarrette Blunt. The rest were one of these twos. He's David Akers with a 6. Silent Death going a huge way to putting himself in a better position to secure the Northeast Division over Cruisers. It's a victory of 52-41 over the Cruisers in that head-to-head matchup. Not much out of the quarterback position for either team. 6 from Carson Palmer. Laurent Robinson from Dallas got him 15. 7 from his kicker, Casey. For Cruisers, Marshawn Lynch got him 10, Phillip Rivers 9, and 7 from Santonio Holmes, 9 from Crosby, his kicker. Again, I'll get into that scenario in a minute for the division winner. And Storm Brigade, final nail in Guru. He was out of the playoff run, but just to prove a point, I guess. 76-40. I guess the point is to show that he can score the most points every week. He leads total points, 726, so huge day from Drew Brees. Thanks a lot, Giant defense. 37 points from Drew Brees. Almost single-handedly beat Guru, who had 40 total. 10 from Cedric Benson, 10 from Roddy White. For Guru, Jimmy Graham on that Monday night got him 15. No one else to really write home about. 8 from Jennings, 2 from Alex Smith, 8 from his kicker, Gostkowski. So there's the games for the week. I'll see if I can get into the playoff push a little bit more. Again, it was hard to complete. I mean, there's a lot of scenarios. I gave you a lot about the Pacific Division. For example, if Storm wins, they'll be 9-4. Silent Death wins, they'll be 8-5. Oh, you know what? Let me go to that. Let me get to the division possibilities. That's a little easier. Gave you the scenario about the Pacific. It's basically between the Daters and Wine House. TNT cannot win the division. So, for the Northeast, if Silent wins and Cruisers loses, Silent wins. That's simple. Cruisers wins and Silent loses, Cruisers wins. Simple. If both win, they're 8-5. Division goes to Silent Death based on Silent Death's 2-0 record versus the Cruisers. So that's pretty simple. If both lose, it would be a 3-way tie because poor Pickens would have been one of the teams that beats them, Silent Death. So we'd have a 3-way tie at 7-6. Death would be 4-2 in the division. Cruisers would be 2-4 in division. Poor would be 3-3 in the division. Division goes to Silent Death. Poor is in play for a playoff spot. And if it came down to cruisers versus poor for the final playoff spot, again, if there's another couple teams involved, all with a 7-6 record, and there are scenarios with that, we break divisions. We break division ties first. So cruisers and poor pickings at 7-6. It would go to poor pickings based on division record. There is a scenario where cruisers and poor pickings would both get into playoffs, and that scenario is if Storm wins, they'd be 9-4, number 1 seed. Silent loses 7-6. Cruisers lose 7-6. Daters lose 7-6. Why Not Us lose 7-6. Cruisers lose. Cleveland Steamers lose 6-7, puts them out of the playoff spot, which would put TNT and poor pickings in play at 7-6. You'd have Storm as your 1 seed. I'm not going to get into seeding with these 7-6 things, but Silent would get in based on the scenario I just laid out before as your division winner. Daters would get in as your division winner. That's 3 teams right there. We would have 3 more spots open, and that would go 4. We have 2 spots left because you have Storm, Silent, and Daters. So that's 3 spots left. So they would go Why Not Us with 7-6, Cruisers with 7-6, Poor Pickings 7-6, TNT 7-6. Break the tie in each division. Why Not Us versus TNT gets you TNT. Cruisers versus Poor would give you Poor, and there would be your final 2. Cruisers wins. Cruisers. Hold on. See, this is where it's completely messed up. Yeah, that would be head-to-head. Cruisers and Poor. Poor gets it. If it comes down to Cruisers versus Why Not Us for the final spot, Cruisers would get it based on head-to-head. That's where that is. But you can see how my head was spinning just because there's so many scenarios that come into play. I mean, if Poor Pickings, Silent Death, and Cruisers all lose, as I mentioned, so I won't do that again. Jesus. Just a lot of different scenarios here, man. Like I said, will make your head spin. If Storm wins, they're 9-4. If Silent wins, they're 8-5. If Cruisers wins, they're 8-5. If Daters lose, they're 7-6. And Why Not Us wins 8-5. Cleveland wins 7-6. So you'd have Storm, Silent, Why Not Us as your division winners. Cruisers would get in at 8-5 based on the best record of the wild cards. Daters would get in because they beat TNT. Because they're 7-6 and TNT would be 6-7 because they lost to Why Not Us, so that doesn't come into play. Daters would get in at 7-6 and Cleveland Steamers would get in at 7-6. So, usually I can do the scenarios because there's a couple of runaway division winners. Like the division winners, usually they run away with it, or it's an easy win and you get it. If not, the other one wins and gets it. This time, division winner possibilities also come into play for wild cards. Possible wild cards could also win the division, so it makes it a little tougher on me. And usually I can get it done because it's only a few teams. Here it's, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams involved, and only one division winner is locked up. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 teams that could win a division, 8 teams winning a wild card, and there's so many different scenarios based on who wins when. So I just can't figure it out yet. I don't have a staff like the NFL to do it. So there you go, TMQB Week 12. Very long. I apologize. So that's it. Good luck this week. Thursday night game. Get your players in, and we'll have a better picture of the playoff scenarios after this week. So, peace.